What if we told you that gender equality wasn't always a given? In fact, it's a relatively recent concept in human history. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? But it's true. The fight for gender equality has been a long, winding road, dotted with fierce battles and marked by monumental victories. Our story begins around the turn of the 20th century with the courageous women of the suffragette movement. These women, indomitable in their resolve, fought tooth and nail for a simple, fundamental right: the right to vote. In the United States, this fight culminated in the adoption of the 19th Amendment in 1920. A landmark victory, this amendment prohibited any United States citizen to be denied the right to vote on the basis of sex. But that was just the beginning. As the decades rolled on, the fight for equality evolved, expanding beyond the ballot box. In the 60s, the battle cry was equal pay for equal work. It was during this time that the Equal Pay Act was signed into law in the United States, making it illegal for employers to pay men and women different wages for the same work. This was a significant milestone, but the wage gap persisted, and unfortunately still does to this day. The late 20th century saw the rise of feminist movements, championing not just women's rights, but gender equality as a whole. These movements brought issues such as reproductive rights, gender-based violence, and discrimination to the forefront of societal consciousness. They fought for legal reforms, support services for survivors, and community-based prevention efforts. But the fight is far from over. Even as we speak, battles are being fought across the globe for equal access to education and healthcare, for increased political representation, for the eradication of gender-based violence and discrimination, for economic empowerment, and for the recognition of intersectionality in the fight for gender equality. So, you see, the journey towards gender equality is one that is still very much in progress. It's a journey that's been paved with courage, resilience, and an unwavering belief in the fundamental right to equality. That's the beginning of the long journey towards gender equality, a journey that is far from over. Imagine working just as hard, if not harder, than your male counterpart and yet earning significantly less. It's a stark reality for countless women across the globe. The struggle for equal pay is a relentless battle, waged on the front lines of workplaces every day. For every dollar a man earns, a woman earns 78 cents doing the same job. That's a staggering 22% wage gap. And it's even wider for women of color. This is not just about money. It's about value, fairness, and justice. The concept of equal pay for equal work is simple. If two people do the same job, they should be paid the same, regardless of their gender. It's a principle that reflects the fundamental values of fairness and equality. It's a battle cry in the fight against gender discrimination. The fight for fair compensation is a fight for respect, recognition, and equality. A fight that we must all engage in for a more equitable future. Did you know that even in the 21st century, access to education and healthcare isn't a guarantee for many women and girls? Yes, you heard it right. Despite all the progress we've made, gender disparities persist in many parts of the world. Let's start with education. Education is the cornerstone of individual and societal growth. Yet millions of girls around the world are denied this fundamental right. They are kept out of school due to poverty, early marriages, cultural norms, or simply because they are girls. This lack of education not only hinders their personal development, but also curtails social progress. An educated woman is more likely to have a healthier family, contribute to her community's economy, and raise educated children, thereby creating a positive ripple effect. Now let's shift our focus to healthcare. Access to quality healthcare is another basic human right that is often compromised for women. In many regions, gender bias and discrimination hinder women's access to essential services like reproductive healthcare, maternal health services, and preventive care. The impact? Higher maternal mortality rates, untreated health conditions, and a less productive workforce. It's a lose-lose situation for everyone. The denial of these basic rights to women and girls doesn't just affect them as individuals. It impacts us all. It hampers economic development, perpetuates poverty, and undermines social progress. When half of the world's population is denied equal access to education and healthcare, we all lose out on potential leaders, innovators, and change-makers. So what can we do about this? We need to challenge and change the societal norms and practices that perpetuate these inequalities. We need to enforce laws that protect women's rights to education and healthcare. We need to invest in programs that empower women and girls, giving them the tools they need to break free from the chains of discrimination. Education and healthcare are not just basic rights, they're the foundation for a fair and equitable society. Let's work together to ensure that these rights are upheld for everyone, regardless of their gender. After all, when women and girls thrive, we all do. When was the last time you saw a woman in a position of power? Was it a rare sighting or a common occurrence? Let's reflect on this, shall we? For many, the image of a woman in a position of political power is not as common as it should be. This is not due to a lack of capable women, but rather a representation gap in politics and decision-making roles. Consider this. How different would our world be if women's voices were heard equally in the halls of power? When women are involved in decision-making processes, they bring unique perspectives and experiences to the table. They can advocate for policies that directly address gender disparities and promote equality. Women's participation in politics is not just about filling seats, it's about enriching discussions, ensuring inclusivity, and making decisions that benefit all members of society. It's about shaping a world where everyone has a say. Representation matters, and women's voices are essential in shaping a fair and equitable society. In a world where everyone is equal, why is violence and discrimination against women still prevalent? A question that rings loud and clear as we delve deeper into our exploration of gender equality. Gender-based violence and discrimination come in various forms: domestic violence, sexual harassment, sexual assault, and human trafficking, to name a few. Each one a horrific act, each one stripping away the dignity and safety of women around the globe. Domestic violence, often hidden behind closed doors, is a pervasive problem that transcends geographic borders, social class, and culture. It's a form of control, a gross abuse of power that leaves its victims living in fear and isolation. Sexual harassment, whether it occurs in the workplace or in public spaces, is another form of gender-based violence that seeks to diminish and objectify women. It creates hostile environments, hinders progress, and robs women of their right to feel safe and respected. Then there's human trafficking, a multi-billion-dollar criminal industry that exploits women and girls for labor and sexual servitude. It's a form of modern-day slavery that violates basic human rights, and it's happening in every corner of the world. But amidst these grim realities, hope persists. Around the globe, tireless efforts are underway to eliminate these practices. Legal reforms are being enacted to strengthen laws against gender-based violence and discrimination. Support services for survivors are expanding, providing essential resources like safe shelter, counseling, and legal assistance. Community-based prevention efforts are also gaining momentum, educating the public, shifting attitudes, and challenging the norms that perpetuate such violence. These efforts are crucial, but the fight is far from over. It's a fight that requires collective action, a fight that demands we stand up and speak out against such injustices. Because the fight against gender-based violence and discrimination is more than just a fight for women's rights. It's a fight for human rights. The fight against gender-based violence and discrimination is a fight for dignity, safety, and equality. Because in a world where everyone is truly equal, violence and discrimination against women would be a thing of the past. In the pursuit of gender equality, we must remember that women's experiences aren't monolithic. They're shaped by a myriad of factors. Indeed, the term intersectionality encapsulates this idea. Coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, a civil rights activist and legal scholar, intersectionality refers to the interconnected nature of social categorizations such as race, class, and gender, creating overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination or disadvantage. Consider this: a woman of color may face discrimination not just because of her gender, but also because of her race. Similarly, a woman with a disability may face unique challenges that stem from the intersection of her gender and her disability. This intersectionality means that the struggle for gender equality isn't just about gender. It's also about race, ethnicity, religion, disability, sexual orientation, and socioeconomic status. It's about recognizing and addressing the ways in which these different identities intersect and influence each other. Now let's pivot to economic empowerment, another cornerstone of gender equality. Economic empowerment refers to the capacity of women to participate in, contribute to, and benefit from growth processes in ways which recognize the value of their contributions, respect their dignity, and make it possible to negotiate a fairer distribution of the benefits of growth. In practical terms, this means advocating for equal access to quality jobs, fair wages, and opportunities for advancement. It means fighting for the right of women to own property, to inherit, and to access financial services. It means advocating for policies that support women entrepreneurs and that help women balance the demands of work and family. Economic empowerment also means addressing the unpaid care work that women disproportionately shoulder, which can limit their ability to participate fully in the economy. It means recognizing that women's economic empowerment is not just about money, it's also about power, about the ability to make choices, and about the freedom to chart one's own path. The path to gender equality is complex and multifaceted, but together, we can make progress. By embracing intersectionality and advocating for economic empowerment, we can build a more inclusive, equitable world where everyone, regardless of their gender or their intersecting identities, has the